Hi everyone and welcome to Pod of the Damned. I'm your host Ian. Joining me as always this week is the other 2/3 of the trio. We'll kick things off with Nico. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. That's a nice fresh t-shirt you're wearing today.
It's from the Halloween Horror
Yes.
Universal
Just
Studios.
just acting like, we've just recorded last week's episode about 20 minutes ago, yeah.
Yep. We did costume change.
Well, I didn't do a costume change.
Yeah, you didn't.
I'm
But
still
that's okay.
representing. I'm still representing.
Thing is, I could have done a costume change and it would have made a bloody difference.
You could have came back in the exact same thing. You should have done
It's
that.
not.
You should have done that.
It's not the same top, though. It's just, if you look at it, they've got different numbers.
Yeah,
See, I didn't notice that. I always thought it was the same one.
yeah, so did I.
No.
Oh well. Also joining us as always, as you can already hear, is Candy. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm ready to plow through this episode though because holy shit, Nico.
I have some thoughts.
I think we all have some thoughts. This is, we often say, right, that some of the funnest episodes we've ever recorded, and I'm sure you've been the same, Candy, is on episodes where we've just torn movies apart. And today,
Oh yeah, that is kind of a specialty of mine. So
and today could
I
be
get real
that day.
joy.
Today could be that day. And in fairness, it does feel like it's been a really long time since we've properly had like a movie we've reviewed that we've torn into. I
think the
think
last one was Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead, but even then, like, it still didn't do that badly. I think when it came to like ratings and things, I think it still ended up. I can't even remember where it ended up, but I think it ended up a lot higher than it had any right being. And
It had no business with that.
no business. But who knows? This might end up the same way. You never know. Could this movie break into the top 10? We just never know. Nico, are you eating crisps down the microphone?
I thought I pressed the button.
No. You're just like pure. I've just been fiddling around with my microphone for the past like 30 seconds, being like, "Why the fuck is this happening?" And then I just see you stuffing your face full of crisps.
What, you mean like this?
You are absolutely full of crisps. Anyways, so before we get into anything else, don't forget that we are a horror podcast that deep dives into a different topic every single week in our quest to create a leaderboard of the best and worst horror movies of all time. This is episode number 114. And in today's show, we're talking about the 1984 drawing Bloodbath at the House of Death. Now, I think by that title, we can all, even if you didn't know already, if you have never listened to our show before, we all know whose pick this was. Don't we, Nico?
Yeah, I can't believe you picked the Candy.
Everybody knows my style by now. I'm gonna throw like Ian tends to pick like the more known films. I pick like sort of mid, like some exploitation, some weird shit, and you just completely are the one that's the wild card.
Although every once in
yeah.
a while, Nico picks like a gem. Nico did pick.
Nico
did pick Let the Right One In. Lest we forget.
I was kind of shocked. I thought that would be yours.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good surprise.
Yeah. Anyways, before we get into that,
I'm sure I've picked more of the top 10 than you think.
the top 10, Aliens wasn't your pick. That was my pick.
It was.
No, it was my pick.
Alien was your pick. Aliens was my pick.
Okay, Jaws, that wasn't your pick. That was my pick.
No, it wasn't mine.
Halloween was my pick. So the top 4.
Yeah.
So you got 1 out of 4 so far. Let the Right One In was yours, so that's 2. The Exorcist was mine's.
Excuse me, who picked it first, motherfucker? You stole that.
Misery.
So 3. I'm counting that.
Oh, I'm also counting that. Misery was mine. The Thing was mine. Reanimator was Candy's. The Omen.
Did you pick Misery?
Yes. You can't just claim a movie you didn't pick. Anyways, not the point. So, anyways, Nico, you pick shite. That's what we're saying. That's all there is to it.
The Omen. So what else was there?
That was the top 10.
What was it?
There was 10.
Yeah, I know a couple
I
I picked are like
Misery.
right underneath, like.
Yeah,
there.
you've been pretty close with a couple. I think Late Night with the Devil. I think you're closest. You're 14th with that, so you're right. You're right there with it, and you tried so desperately to get Near Dark up there as well, but you
I
came
really did try.
you came damn close. Anyways, if you would like to support this show across our social media platforms, you can do so. We're on Twitter/X at Damn Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. Nico, you had a little question. I don't know. I tried to have a little think about this, and I don't know if I've come up with any answers yet. But you had a little question for us before we came on air, Nico, from one of our listeners.
Yeah, so I was asked to ask you two this question, and I've not even come up with the answer yet.
Well, you probably should,
So
because I'm going to ask it back to you.
obviously. So you've got to pick 3 horror TV characters that are bucking you up from 3 different shows in a horror scenario, and you don't know what the horror scenario is.
Now, it has to be good guys, though.
No, it's just 3 horror
Oh,
characters.
I would say, well, fuck, I gotta rethink if it's just
I
good
thought
guys.
I thought you were on about just good guys. Oh, that's
See, I thought straight out the box, but that I don't think I've got a good guy in my one.
Oh, see, now that changes everything. Now I've got to go away
What
and now I've got to go away and rethink. Well, what we'll say. So it's any 3 characters from TV shows that are going to back you up in a fight against an unknown villain. Is that what we're? That's
Has to be horror TV show.
horror TV show.
So it's like straight away, folk were saying like
well,
Supernatural.
Hold on. We're gonna answer this at the end of the show. And
so is that all the time
I
we've
need
got
to
to
think about my
it?
third
So we're
choice
gonna have
bit.
so we're gonna have this episode to think, and at the end of the show, we're gonna give our answers to that. And we'll throw it out on our social media as well and see what our followers and listeners who they would choose. I've got one, so I need to sit and think about my other 2, because now I was like, I don't know what heroes are going to be backing me up, but now I know that it can be villains as well.
I need to find my phone to write this
so
down.
I was like, I didn't even think about that. I was like, I'm picking some fucking villains because it needs some punch.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, if you guys are ready, shall we talk about?
Well, no, I need my phone now. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, Nico's not ready. So Candy, now we've got to fill for time. It's fine. He'll be back in time by the time I do this sort of like intro to the film. So in today's episode, we're talking all about Bloodbath at the House of Death. This movie was released in 1984, was directed by Ray Cameron, and stars Kenny Everitt, Pamela Stephenson, and Vincent Price. Oh.
Yeah.
It upsets me greatly that I have to put his name in association with this movie. I also love the fact...
I felt the same way. It felt dirty.
It did feel dirty.
I can't find my phone.
I also love the fact that Nico just never puts his microphone on mute at all. Like, you eating crisps, leaving the room. Just, you ever heard of a mute button, Nico?
I thought I had it on last time. I did.
You didn't have it on this time either. Anyways.
Well, did they? And now my cat's killing me.
Anyways. The IMDb plot is as follows. 6 scientists investigate a strange phenomenon at the creepy Headstone Manor, the site of a mysterious massacre years earlier that took the lives of 18 guests in one night. Now, Nico, this was your pick, although I don't know if Nico's still with us because he's frozen again on my screen.
Oh no.
There he is. He's back. Nico, are you still with us?
Yeah.
That's like millennial
What?
pause.
Did it go away like?
You went away again.
Did it go away like?
Nico, this is your choice.
I could hear you fine.
Okay. There's a slight delay, I think, with Nico's with Nico's audio, but we'll carry on as best we could. So this is your choice of movie, Nico. Why the fuck did you pick this? What go for it. The floor is yours.
So I was talking to a mate and we were talking about folk we used to love as kids, and I'm not gonna lie, Kenny Everitt was like probably my favourite comedian growing up. And he is just the quintessential slapstick British comedian who didn't give a fuck. Was LGBT before it was even a thing, you know what I mean? He was for everyone's rights for everything absolutely fucking loved him. Hence, this came up, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll suggest it.
Well, you did more than suggest it. You just fucking chose it, didn't you? Listen.
And you said about Vincent Price. Vincent Price was a great fan of his, and that's why he was in it.
Yes.
He loved Kenny Everitt.
Listen, like, all those things that you're saying is true, absolutely 100%. However, that does not make the person a good actor in a horror movie, because this film is fucking terrible.
It felt like it was like 4 fucking hours long. It just felt so long. Like I felt like, is this like psychological torture? I'll confess. It just went on forever.
I know.
But he wasn't trying to be good. It was this quintessential slapstick British comedy that was the opposite of what you normally get.
And you know, on that, if I can comment on this, just get it out of the way at the beginning. My sense of humor, I mean, I have this giant tattoo of Mystery Science Theater. Okay. It's my favorite show. I think it's hilarious where they make fun of the bad movies. So I've seen a lot of my exploitation bad movies. And it's not humor for everybody. I run into a Misty, they fucking know the tattoo. They're like, oh shit, you like that. But it's a very niche thing. Now, I'm an American and I have British comedy is too dry for me. And because my sense of humor is more like Blue. Like the grossest, most childish, stupid shit makes me laugh. Okay, you got a fart joke in there. I'm gonna fucking laugh. So we have a couple of those. I was like, good, yeah, I can laugh about that. But it's just not my sense of humor. And everybody's like, you know, throughout my life where I'm like, UK humor, it's a little dry for me. It's not my style. And then you got a lot of sight gags and stuff, and people are like, but what about Monty Python? I'm like, I'm just not into it. It's not my sense of humor. Is it good? Sure, I guess. But I can't, the jokes don't land with me, or it's just a little dry. So I wanted to get that out of the way.
So this is the thing for me as well, is because I do feel like this movie, and I'm glad you kind of brought Monty Python in there, because I feel like this movie is kind of trying to be that similar sense of humor that Monty Python was, and I'm not the biggest Monty Python fan either.
I thought you guys were gonna like obliterate me for saying that. I'm not a huge Monty Python fan.
I like, you know, Life of Brian. I like Holy Grail. They've got like they're good. They're fun movies. But there's a point for me, especially when it comes to comedy, where you've leaned too far into stupid, and I don't really do well with stupid humor. And like, you know, we can all appreciate a fart and a poop and a toilet gag, you know, here and there.
Or a dick joke or something.
Yeah, of course. And don't get me wrong, there are a couple of jokes in this movie where it's like, okay, yeah, that was kind of funny. You know, I get that. Like, and I can understand why people like this, but it went way too far into the direction of slapstick silly humor that you were talking about, Nico. And that just doesn't land at all well for me at all. So
I know. That's why I thought you'd hate it.
I really didn't have a good time watching this film at all.
And also, I don't like spoof films. And it's also a spoof film. So I'm like, oh.
I appreciated a couple of like references that they were trying to achieve in this movie. So like that scene where they come in,
they're very of the time.
Yeah, like there was I like the clear American Werewolf in London reference when they go into the pub and they say the name of the manor and everyone stops and stares at them. I like that. I like there was.
I love this song. This song's the best bit.
I like the song. I genuinely like the song. I thought the song was funny. That was
It was unexpected, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny."
Yeah, that was like a good bit of humor. So there are moments, as brief as they may be, there are moments in here that, you know, I can be like, okay, like that was funny. Kenny Everitt was a funny guy, you know, back in his heyday. But this whole thing, and we'll obviously get a bit more detail into it as well. This whole thing just did not land for me one little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
definitely landed for me.
So until next week, guys.
so you've got Pamela Stephenson in here. You've got Kenny Everitt in here. You've got basically the late 70s, early 80s top-notch stand-up comics in this. You've got heaps of cameos from all their friends who were massive at the time in TV and film.
Yeah.
You've got everything, and it is a proper spoof movie before spoof movies was even a thing. I thought I'd never really seen that much spoof movies, and I fucking thought this was amazing. I thought this was genius as a child, and when it came up, we were talking about it. There's nobody I know that has a bad memory about this movie. They
But-
all liked it.
But is it kind of what we were saying about what you were saying about in our last episode on Zombie, about how it's one of those things that you really like as a child, and this movie in particular, like the humor in here is definitely aimed
Very childish.
at a younger, more adolescent audience, you know. And I'm with Candy. I don't really fuck with spoof movies that much. I can tolerate like the first two scary movie films.
I can do like Airplane, basically.
They're like
only the first one.
Yeah, if we're talking
But
like
this was getting banned and stuff because it's got gay references and stuff in it as well. There was so much shit.
I'm gonna bring that up.
There was so much shit in this movie that fucking it was getting really like fucked over because of, and it was I remember it being so controversial and everything, and I'm not gonna lie, I fucking love this movie. This is switch your brain off. This is so bad it's good. This is what you always say about it.
So no, but this is the thing. Like, this is what fascinates me when we have this kind of conversations, because we very clearly have a very different definition of what qualifies as a so bad it's good film, and I would not put this movie in that category. Like, I wouldn't even put.
I would not either, and I'm a person who likes to watch bad movies, but the search, there's a very fine line, and I think it's like this really scientific almost process of what is so bad it's good. For me, I get really down to splitting hairs. This is not that for me.
So yeah, it's not that. And listen, it's perfectly fine to have a different definition. If you find that if you think this is so bad that you have a great laugh at it, fantastic.
Yeah.
For me, the quintessential so bad it's good movie will always be Troll 2. And we've talked about that at great we've talked about that in great life, because you disagree with that, Nico. You just don't have those same
I just think that's so bad, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's perfectly valid. That doesn't stop me from still giving it a really shit score. I think I gave it like 3 out of 10. And honestly, I think that was probably being generous for Troll 2, because I think I had to give it like that score just because of how much fun I had with it. And I kind of feel like Nico,
like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at all the time. Garbage Day, the guy with the crazy eyebrows and shit. Like, that's so bad it's good. Whereas like some people would say Ice Cream Man would be that I don't like Ice Cream Man. I think Clint Howard just gets my fucking nerves. But it's like I could go into a science, like if I did one episode just talking about the science of this shit, I could go on. 2 hours.
Like Nico, I think probably the most recent one we would have covered would have been Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And there are people out there who say that is a movie that is so bad it's good. And I don't think either one of us for that one really came down on that side. I think we agreed on that one, that this is just a bad film.
It's just garbage.
I've still not checked out the sequel, which
I started watching it and didn't finish.
Oh,
because I had to go to work.
Sounds like a lot of things in your life, Nico. Hey.
But no, I like the fact that everyone's got different definitions of so bad it's good. Like, especially here. But there's jokes in here that are point blank taken out of the media at the time. Like, what is that again? The businessman's retreat and the girls' camping thing.
Summer camp or something.
Yeah,
girls' summer camp, yeah. Like, that was the whole Tory MP scandal thing that was happening at the time. There's stuff like that that's in it, and it just dates it so fucking badly. But still to this day, when you see the jokes, because you were there at the time, you remember it, and it's funny as fuck.
The thing is, I like, for me, I wasn't there at the time, and I don't remember it, so
you had no idea about that.
It holds absolutely no reference for me whatsoever. I have no point of reference for it. Obviously, I know about it. I'm a person who's studied history and politics, but I have no idea what things were like about that at the time. So it held no place. There was nowhere for me to laugh at. There was nothing for me to laugh at, even though the joke was there on the screen, because there was nothing in my head that could put 2 and 2 together with that. So, I'm all for movies, especially for movies like making modern references, but it just dates the film so badly. And I think and not just that, there's so many points in this movie where you can be like, you can really
like
tell.
one being, okay, so we have the gay couple, and some of the jokes are funny. It doesn't really get offensive, but I mean, it was of the times. It doesn't get offensive till they're looking through the AIDS magazine. I mean, I grew up, and Nico's close to my age. the AIDS crisis, first calling it gay cancer, and then AIDS. It's like, okay, when they had the Him magazine, he's kind of drooling over it. All right, do we need the AIDS one? I don't think AIDS jokes are funny. Um, so I mean, but
I
it
should
is
correct
of
you
the
this a little
times.
bit, Candy, and I've got to correct you this a little bit. The reason that joke's in there is because he actually died of AIDS. So he's making fun of what he was actually dying of. If it's that whole thing, he's that's why it's there. It's nothing
I
to be
didn't I
offensive
didn't
about
get
it.
that. Yeah, okay. I didn't
That's
know
what
that.
that's why I thought I'd quickly correct you on that one because,
Okay,
well,
okay.
he's probably the most famous person over here apart from Freddie Mercury who died of AIDS, and the rumor is they caught off the same guy because they were that close friends.
I
So
would
yeah,
Wow.
I would
Okay.
say
So
that
I did not know that at
I
all.
would say that Freddie Mercury is significantly more famous than Kenny Everett.
no, but I'm saying
Yeah, Freddie
that's the
Mercury is
two
kind of
biggest
like
ones.
an icon.
That's the two biggest ones, and they were very close friends. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
they were.
Yeah, he was like the king of comedy over here. The whole thing with the Radio One thing, the whole thing. He was like the biggest DJ at the time.
Yeah.
He was then the biggest talk show comedy guy for a while, and that only lasted about 2 years because he went into doing sketch comedy and all that instead.
Yeah,
And he was huge over here in the 80s.
I think
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before.
there is something to be said. I think it is worth pointing out just how big Kenny Everett actually was in the UK. Like it was, he was a phenomenon over here. Like he was huge, and there is a lot to be said for that. His name is at a certain point here carried so much weight over here in the UK. So that it is definitely something that I think is worth sort of pointing out and
Yeah, I was
bringing
hoping
up.
you guys could bring some perspective to me. I like to think I'm pretty worldly, but like I don't, you guys are exposed to things that I'm not. So I think, coming to this as an American, um, the only person I'm aware of is Vincent Price, and he's not really a whole lot in the film. And I
Yeah.
was thinking of what was he doing in 1984? And all this stuff. So why was he in this movie? I was just curious, but that's the only point of reference I really had. I didn't know who any of these people were. I don't
Pamela
up on
Stephenson,
that.
who is our main sort of female character in here, she's married to Billy Connolly, who is possibly the greatest comedian of all time.
I would definitely say that too. Yeah.
So I don't know if that gives you any sort of clearer point of reference as to who she is. Obviously, she's not this.
She
She's
I think she was super hot and
she was
super beautiful
a
in it.
very well established actress in her own right. By the way, I'm not just sitting here being like she's Billy
aye.
Connolly's wife. But just
So the easy way of putting it is, do you know who Catherine Ryan is?
the comedian.
She's like the 80s. Aye, she's like the 80s version of Catherine Ryan. You know, the one that's in every. If you want the token American in any show, she was that in the 80s.
Catherine Ryan
Is the easy way of putting it.
Catherine Ryan is Canadian.
Yeah, but she's even made the joke that she's the token American. That's why
Well,
you're a
we
bit
have
late there,
something
Ian. But okay.
in the 80s here in America, especially like with Nickelodeon when it debuted when I was a kid. Everything was from Canada. So
Yeah.
my point of reference from Canada until later on, I've been to Canada several times. It was called Canucksploitation. And so we got like a lot of Canadian shows.
I love it.
And then when I was a kid, I'm sure, Nico, you'll understand this more. Like the cartoons that we watched, I don't know if it was different in the UK, but a lot of them were, technically anime. And they just dubbed them and made them into English. So, like Transformers, not Transformers, Voltron, all kinds of shit like that. Thundercats, all that kind of shit. They were made by these Japanese companies. So it was like I was introduced to a lot of things, but like the UK, I just didn't really know much about it so much later.
See, the thing is, in the 80s and early 90s, everything in the UK, they were trying to get American stuff, but then the British made stuff was so far British away from the American stuff, it was unbelievable.
Well,
like
I
it went
don't have
the slapstick stuff.
The British like reference points, or
Yeah.
and British comedy has never really landed for me, so I struggle with that. So that may affect where I'm coming from in this movie. Like I just don't get it.
Well, that's the thing as well. I think it is also worth pointing out because I think we often talk about, especially when we cover like sort of non-English speaking films or films that aren't from the UK or from the US. There is that sort of cultural difference that you do kind of have to take into account as well. And we did Zombie last week, and we talked about the issues in translation with the script, and the fact that Fulci didn't really, speak any English whatsoever, and other things like that. So I think there is something to be said for that. We'll definitely get into how British humor translates when we do our next episode, which I'll reveal to our listeners at the end of this show. Because there's definitely some things, especially with British humor, that translate a lot better across to North America than other
Absolutely.
things. But again, it possibly does just depend on that style of humor, that style of comedy. I think not even necessarily that I don't necessarily want to throw the term around, but like a more sophisticated comedy, I think, does better, which I think would surprises a lot of us in the UK, because I think a lot of people think over here that toilet humor will do really really well across in the States, and in actual fact, I think a slightly more sophisticated comedy actually does really well.
I think it ages better.
Yeah.
Like,
I made a reference to my favorite show, Mystery Science Theater 3000, who I've scarred my body with the giant tattoo. That doesn't always work for everybody because it is a little bit more intelligent humor, and it's just not your typical, like, it's not for everyone. So I mean, comedy, it just goes in a lot of different ways, and even here in the States, not everybody likes this show.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets this kind of humor. So toilet jokes do go well with some people. Sometimes I'm that person, but it's when you get some of the drier things for me that I just don't it just doesn't appeal to me. And I don't think it's really the cultural thing. I think it's just the type of humor that it is. And it is typically very British for me. Like, I notice it a lot.
The thing is, this came out when basically everyone's growing up on the Carry On films. And you can't get more slapstick holiday camp humor than that. And I think he's taken a lot of that into what he was doing.
Yeah.
But
and the Carry On films, some of the Carry On films were huge. Like the Carry On films were really, really big at a certain point. But again,
Carry On Screaming, for example.
Yeah. But again, a group of films that really just doesn't float my boat. So that type of humor just doesn't really land for me. And it goes the same. I know you mentioned when we're talking about like spoof films. I know you mentioned was it Airplane you mentioned, Candy? Yeah, I don't.
Yes, I love Airplane.
I don't fuck with that either. Like, I really, really just don't.
I can only do the first one, and only once every decade. Like, my mom shows me. It's funny, because I like when people are playing it straight, but it's actually hilarious. Like Robert Stack in that, or Leslie Nielsen was really good at playing it straight but being hilarious.
He's brilliant at that. Yeah.
He was great at that. And I don't love everything about Airplane. And I do like Scary Movie too, just because I think Chris Elliott is fucking hilarious in that. Chris Elliott brings joy to everything.
And Tim Curry as well.
Oh, Tim Curry's like a god. He's an elder god.
This goes the total opposite of playing it straight for fight, though. This just goes funny, stupid, childish, the whole
very
shebang.
Slapstick, very visual comedy. Which it doesn't always land for me.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was not landing for me last night. I was like, I didn't get to watch it last night. I've been out of town a lot. So I was like, all right, while I do my hair, I'm gonna watch this. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay.
Like, I love the surgery one. Like, see when they're doing the surgery. That's exactly what I was
thinking of that scene. And I'm like, it's just going on way too long. And then he's sort of like, why did he have to be German?
So that was one of his most famous characters. That's why he does the German thing.
Oh, okay. I'm like, see, I'm missing stuff in translation and in time period because it just wasn't a thing here,
So like his most famous ones was there's that one, there's the one that looked like Dolly Parton, it's all done the best possible taste, constantly crossing the legs, take the piss out of Sharon Stone flashing, and it's that type of comedy he was doing, and the only one that really got into this is the German one, and I'm not gonna lie, the surgery one, just I buckle at that every time. I love that stupidity in it. It's just, you can blatantly see he's just pulling mints out the body. The guy's still awake. You're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
And he's laughing too. Like, they're all laughing at him. He's laughing. And then after you come out of it, and he's like, I was one of the best. And
he's struggling.
Where are we? And she's like, we're in bed, and you're not one of the best. I'm like, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think for me, like, there's just a lot of why is it even in there? Like, what's the deal with like his fake leg, for example?
I thought they were gonna do something with that, and it really never went anywhere.
Yeah. Like even that one got me. I was like, what the fuck is with the leg?
You know,
What was the point of that? I thought it was going to be like some kind of used in some kind of hilarious way, but I guess the joke was the leg. I
the
don't,
leg,
it didn't land.
Yeah.
the leg definitely was the draw. I want to talk about. We can't review this movie without doing a little segment on essentially the god of horror that is in this film. He is only in it for about 5 scenes, I think, is in
Right.
total. But Vincent Price is in this movie, and Vincent Price is a member of our Horror Hall of Fame, and quite rightly
Yes.
too, because as I said, he is a god of horror. Um,
Uh,
I don't know. Did he bring anything to this movie for you? Was he just like not in it enough? Had he maybe
Well,
been in it a little bit longer, could he have potentially maybe raised this movie out of the ground somewhat?
I don't even know. I know when it was advertised here in the States, it just had Vincent Price on the cover. Like, you know, because that's the American touchstone for it. And then so you kind of so if you go into this and Vincent Price is on the cover and he's not really in it enough, you're like, oh, and see that will fuck you up. Like that was false advertising. He shouldn't have been
Yeah.
um blatantly displayed.
yeah.
And there's a funny thing about Vincent Price, the way that he speaks, a lot of people think that he's British
Yeah.
because he has that very clipped tones. No, he is American. He just speaks very properly and very the way he enunciates words, they're very crisp, very where people think that he's actually British. So I was
Yeah.
like,
And he was
hmm.
in, he was in a lot of sort of British Hammer horror movies,
Well, Hammer
so
films are very British, and
yeah.
I love a lot of Hammer films. I don't love this film though. This is not a Hammer
I
film.
mean, Hammer Horror is still putting out horror movies to this day as well. Like Hammer Horror has
But
never.
nothing like the heyday,
No,
like Die Die My Darling and the Christopher Lee Dracula movies, which got worse as they went on, but were pretty good. I do like Hammer films a lot.
Oh,
I love
100.
Carolyn Monroe, who was in she was contracted for that. She was in Maniac, but she was contracted to Hammer Horror. I love everything that she was in. So Hammer Horror lands,
Yeah.
but it's not trying to be funny. It's trying to be scary and cool.
Listen, the Hammer horror have definitely sort of moved away from what they are famous for. I'm just having a quick
Yeah.
look at the list. So they they did go away for a little bit. They came back. I think it was 2007 that they sort of came back with this sort of rebrand. A couple of the horror movies they've done. So they did the 2010 remake of Let the Right One In, Let Me In. That's a Hammer movie. They also did.
So weird.
They also did the Woman
It
in.
just feels weird.
Yeah, they also did the Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, and then the sequel to
I
that
knew
as
that
well.
one.
They've done The Resident from 2011, The Quiet Ones from 2014, and The Lodge from 2019. So they're not, listen, they've not done huge, great, massively successful movies,
But they're still making movies.
but they're
So I
still
guess
making
that's
movies.
cool. But for me, Hammer Horror is like the 60s, really
Yeah.
awesome visuals, and you got, Peter Cushing and Christopher
Yeah.
Lee and it just this amazing shit going on.
Listen, you think of Hammer Horror and you think of, Dracula, like you say, Christopher Lee, Frankenstein, these kinds of movies that they were putting out. That is what is quintessential Hammer Horror. And this kind of falls into that a little bit, but just nowhere near to the levels, I think, of those ones. I don't know, Nico, how like in comparison to like some of those movies, I know we're talking about like wildly different kind of genres here, but
Yeah, we are.
and we're talking about
See,
we were talking
the
about
problem with this.
we're talking about this as like a Vincent Price joint, like he's in it for more
I
than
know,
like
but I'm
2
saying
minutes.
the problem with this movie, with the whole Vincent Price thing being in it and all that, they got him in just to pull the audiences in for that, to get serious horror folk in. But this movie was just basically for the day that it was made. They were making it for those days. They weren't making it to be a masterpiece or anything. I think they were just having fun with it, and you can see that when they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's just
I mean,
it's just funny for the sake of being funny.
You may be right. Maybe it's just one of those things where, like, a group of people who really get on well together, we're going to make this really sort of stupid, fun kind of flick, and we don't really care if it does particularly well or not. Normally, when you do that, then that's when you get, like, we talked about like a few episodes ago about how do you actually end up making like a cult film. And it's usually like having that kind of attitude that you're just going to go in, you're going to make this film, not that you're going to go in and actually make a cult film. You're going to go in and just do what you can and do what you and have fun and like
Because
whatever
we've
else.
seen a lot of failures with people who are intentionally trying to make a cult film and it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
A cult film has to happen organically.
But they weren't even trying to do that. They were basically trying to push the standards of what you were allowed to do. Because there's a lot of stuff in this that they got shot on for a great height about.
No,
Like,
Well, I mean,
especially the gay
I think it's
references.
comedy that's pushing the envelope, and I'm always about pushing the envelope. Like, I really felt like the depiction of the gay couple wasn't offensive
and you
at
got to
all.
remember,
It was funny, but
this-
not offensive. The only thing that offended me was like, I don't think AIDS is funny, but then I did, but I think you kind of have to have that backstory
Yeah.
as to why that's there. And then once you explain it to me, I'm like, okay, well, now I feel all right about it,
Yeah.
you know, but
And
otherwise I was like, it didn't get super offensive like it would have in an
Yeah.
American movie at the time.
I think, yeah, because you got to
like,
remember,
see, when he was interviewed on TV, he was like your Ricky Gervais nowadays, who doesn't give a fuck about anything. They were the same style. They always, he used to say every single time, there should be nothing off limits in comedy at all. Nothing.
And I think that's something we're struggling with in comedy now because of, you know, societal changes and
Yeah.
things. So a lot of comics are afraid to
But
get
his,
canceled.
yeah,
know?
so it was the opposite back then. So the stuff that they would say would get them cancelled. So
the thing
they
is,
would get cancelled for having the gay references in it because they were gay, and folk would be like, "Well, you should be hiding that because he was gay as well." Kenny Everett was as gay as they come.
See, I didn't know that, and so I'm glad I know that because like I said, I was really expecting as in an American movie in 1984, it would have been extremely offensively depicted, and it wasn't. It was funny, but it wasn't like, you know, it felt real, felt organic.
So he used to push for everybody's rights back in the day when not a lot of people did it, and there's a lot of stuff in the movie that folk refuse to go see it because of that stuff that he put in it, and
I was
that's
aware that there
why.
was controversy, but I didn't know exactly what the controversy was.
So, like, the perfect example is the gay couple. Two guys that played straight hard men in different programs and films in the UK, and they got those two to play the gay guys to prove that you don't need to be the flamboyant, you know, John Inman, I'm free, are you being served type guy.
Yeah,
it was,
I think we got to remember as well.
They're normal men.
We've got to remember as well, not just a gay couple, an interracial gay couple as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I was gonna say that. I mean,
and I was going to cut with that once I made the point about
that
the
was
gay
really
couple
pushing
part.
the envelope, and I do appreciate that. Like I said, I was very surprised at how well it was depicted without being, you know, making it like the joke. That wasn't really the joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, and again, like, going back to this whole point about sort of spoof films, that's where I tend to fall off with a lot of spoof films is that, you know, they want to like try and be like edgy and things, but they just go way too far. And it just becomes like really stupid.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the annoying thing for me about this movie because you're right, you know, early to mid 80s, interracial gay couple, you know, it was actually handled, I think, in this film relatively well. Like, I don't think there was nothing, like you say, Candy, like super offensive in there. Obviously, like say, if you know like the full backstory as well, like you know, you're going in there and you're like, right, okay, like this is something they've handled really well, but it just doesn't. That's fine, but then in the context of the movie, yeah, okay, they've handled that situation well, but that doesn't make it a good film because
No, not
like,
at all.
you
I mean, I
know,
do appreciate that little anecdote, you know. I mean, it's Pride Month. So my I have twin brothers that are 4 years younger than me, and they're both gay, and they both are in interracial relationships. So, you know, and even now that's still controversial, you know.
Yeah.
One brother is married to a black man, the other brother is married to a Japanese man and lives in Japan. So it's like, you know, even now that's still a little controversial. So it's like this, and to treat it like it's not a big deal, I really did appreciate that. Still, yes, it doesn't make it good, but I will appreciate what needs to be appreciated.
But the whole thing about this is he was one of the ones to push for that stuff, and he's doing it in his way, which is through comedy, and that's part of why I love this movie as well.
Listen,
because it
Yeah,
is.
Nico, you are talking my score up right now.
It's because
you're not talking.
It's because he was doing all that. He was for the like you were talking about the right and the left. He was for the left way before it was a thing over here. You know, he was for everybody's rights, and that's why part of I loved his comedy, because he genuinely did not give a flying fuck.
I like
Listen,
when
And
people
I
use
love
their
that.
platforms and their power for good. So I can
Exactly.
appreciate that. I like that.
I agree with all of these things that are being said. However, the film is still terrible. The film's not good, Nico.
It really is.
It's really a bad film, and I understand what you're
I
saying. I understand.
I like it for the comedy. The comedy is hysterical. It is slapstick
I
comedy, and it
dis
is switch your brain off
I,
stupid.
I'm not a slapstick comedy girl.
this
And
film.
I am.
I think this is one of those things like comedy is probably the most difficult thing to get right in any sort of genre, whether that's horror films, whether that's normal films, because there's the spectrum of where people land in terms of their sense of humor is so wild. You know, you could be
everybody's all over the place with
you
that.
could be somebody who
Exactly.
loves slapstick horror or loves slapstick comedy, or you could be someone who likes punchy one-liners or, you know, visual gags or really intellectual gags, dry humor, you know, and it also depends on like cultural backgrounds and the stories behind
Yeah,
it.
because I'm bringing this American side to this, UK film, and I'm kind of like, I don't get it.
So, you know what, like, Nico, I fully appreciate, like, this fits your sort of requirements, if you will, for, like, your sense of humor, if that makes sense. So I'm not, I don't think this film is particularly well put together either. So if you take just the comedy out of it and you look at how this film is sort of paced and how it's shot and everything else, as I think this is a poorly put together film, regardless of whether the intention behind it is good or not. Like, that's not what I'm debating here. I think this film is really badly paced. I think
we're kind of evaluating this as a film.
Yeah.
You know,
like the film feels like they just knock off a character every 2 seconds. There's a section in the middle of this film where they just knock off all of the main characters, all of the scientists, and they're just gone.
Yeah.
Like, and it's done, and then you're
just
like,
right towards the end.
Yeah, and you're just like,
and you know, we when we spoke about Zombie on our last episode, we talked about the plot lacking a lot.
There's no plot in this.
There's no plot in this, and then
I know that too.
And then when it goes to the end, you're kind of like, really? All right.
Yeah.
What was the point of all the Satanist stuff if you're just going to be alien? I don't know what the hell. Why would Satan?
It is one of the worst endings ever. I'm not
gonna lie. Stupid. And then the little ET voice. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Do you know who did that ET voice, by the way? I don't know if
I know it looks like the director's son.
It's the director's son. Do you know the director's son? I don't know if this he's also a comedian. Don't know if he's translated across the States. It's Michael McIntyre.
I have no idea who that is.
He's a big comedian over here in the UK. Well,
he's huge.
He's big. I don't think he's particularly funny.
He's like the Saturday, like the go-to Saturday TV show when he does the stuff.
Yeah, he does.
What's it called? Yeah,
his Big Show or something. I think it's called.
It's the only thing to rival Ant and Dec over here.
I don't.
There's when it's a Saturday, it's one of those two that most families sit down and watch.
I don't like Michael McIntyre. I don't think he's particularly funny. I have actually been to see him, and he was fine, but he's not really my cup of tea. But yeah, that's he was the voice of ET at the end. I think I have another couple of little bits of trivia about Michael McIntyre. I think, unless I've just had that and I've just blew my load early. But yeah. The plot is just ridiculous. They're like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? You know, you have everyone with the symbols. You've got the blind guy with the symbols on his, on his glasses, bumping into everything. But then you've also got Kenny Everitt with one leg, who's also bumping into everything. And it's just like, why is everyone bumping into anything? You've got Pamela Stevens with her lisp, which, okay.
And then she just randomly gets her tits out for no reason.
And then she gets sexually...
They were nice boobs.
And then she gets, sexually assaulted by a ghost, but she ends up liking it.
And likes it.
Which is also referenced in Scary Movie 2.
I was going to say
I think that's probably more of a reference. Maybe not definitely not the liking it part, but I think that was in reference to the entity, which has a ghost rape scene, which is kind of distressing. So I do appreciate some of the references they put in there. I do appreciate that an attempt was made. I can fully appreciate that some people will find the comedy funny, even if I really, really don't.
Yeah.
But in general, I think as a whole, this for me, it's just a poorly put together movie. If you were in the States and you went to see this thinking that there was going to be a big Vincent Price joint, you're sorely going to be sorely disappointed, when you're coming out of the
Yeah, I
theaters at
think
the
using
end.
Vincent Price as sort of the hook, um, pissed a lot of people off. It
So,
pissed me off. I was like, "Oh, Vincent Price is in this." Oh man,
yeah.
you know.
But
And
he's only in it
actually,
because he likes Kenny Everett.
No,
Like,
no,
right,
I
they
get
became
that.
I
very
read
close
about
mates.
that. But also Vincent Price, he was always really big on not using obscenity, but he did use obscenity in this film. That he broke that rule,
Mm.
and I was kind of like, "Oh wow, he said shit. Oh my god."
You,
It was a little weird,
that he chose to
because he
break it
was
for this as well.
Yeah.
for this fucking piece of shit. Sorry, I mean, movie. And I was like, oh, Vincent, but this is a time in Vincent Price's career where he was a has-been. He really, I mean, like he did the little rap on Thriller, and he had done some voicing a little bit before that on an Alice Cooper song I really like called Devil's Food. So he was really not, I mean, his career was on the skids. And he was starting to get a revival right before he died, thanks to Tim Burton. But this was not a good time in his career.
You also got to think as well, though, at this point, he's in his 70s at this point as well. He's
Yes.
73, I think he would have been at this point. So he's getting up there in age, like he was coming to the end of, I think he lived for like, what, another decade after this? I think it was
Mm,
early 90s, I think he
not
died.
not quite. I think he died at the end of the 80s with Edward Scissorhands was the last film he did.
Yeah, so like he
And he
didn't,
passed away then. So maybe not even a decade.
yeah.
When was it? 88, 89?
So he was coming to the end of his life essentially as well. So
Yeah.
I think like as with most people,
He was
they're
coming at that stage where he didn't give a fuck and he wanted to just have fun as
well,
well.
yeah. There's
Hence him
Well, I
doing
feel
the
like
Thriller
there's a
thing.
parallel, a weird one between if I can bring up a really weird sidebar that is kind of interesting. It does apply. Like Tim Burton had the friendship with Vincent Price near the end of his life and kind of got him a revival before he died. That he put that into his movie Ed Wood, which the friendship between Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood, where Ed Wood kind of got Bela Lugosi right before he died, and kind of revived him right then. So, his career. So there's parallels between them. But yeah, so he had this big revival right before he died, thanks to Tim Burton.
yeah, and I think like listen, I love to see people like Vincent Price, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff get because I do feel like these kind of and Christopher Lee as well, obviously, and Peter Cushing and all of these
Yes.
sort
And
of
boy, he
actors,
had a huge revival.
you know, and I love the fact that these people now get that recognition, that they maybe didn't get back then. Because like you say, Vincent Price was on the skits with his career, but as horror fans, we should have been like worshipping the ground he touched on in the early 80s because he
But it's much like appreciating like a visual artist, they don't really get that, or some poets or writers, they don't really get that recognition until they're dead.
yeah,
Then they
Yeah.
become icons. And
you
it's
know
so
But
sad that they don't get to see it.
yeah.
Like
you
Milo
saying about
Manningham.
Christopher Lee was meant to be in
Christopher
this as
Lee, like
well.
he came back fucking strong and did, the Lord of the Rings films. He did
No, but he was meant to be in this. That's what I'm saying. He was actually meant to be in this. This is one of the only other trivia bits I know. He was meant to be in this, and the only reason he wasn't is because he had a scheduling conflict, and he still tried to get out of it to be in this. That's how much of a fan of Kenny Everett he was as well.
Yeah.
well, him
So
being
it wasn't just one horror icon that was almost
Well,
in it.
that's the thing, though. But like, if Christopher Lee had managed to come in, we obviously don't know in what capacity would he have also only been in 5 scenes? Would it have been him and Vincent Price in those 5 scenes? You know what? I think if it had been, I'd probably be creaming all over this fucking film at that point because
fucking
like,
Christopher Lee is like, oh my God, he's amazing. And like, God, what a life. I was just revisiting The Wicker Man, which he did for free.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um, because it was such a fun movie. Like he didn't get paid. He just fucking did the movie. And it's like, so Christopher Lee is a god. But like,
Well,
yeah,
same sort of thing with this. He was wanting to be in this so much, but just because of scheduling conflict, they couldn't get everyone on him, and he was the one that was opted out. And I'm like, it
as
would have
much as
been
I love
totally
Vincent
next
Price, I
level.
think Christopher Lee would have been the better choice for this.
Probably.
Oh no,
I
but
think.
it was a different part. He was going to be.
No, I know, but like if you
It was
had
going
to
to be the both of them.
but I think if you had to choose like between one of them, I think at this point and again as well in their careers as well, I think Christopher Lee would have been a better choice if they would have been able to like get.
Oh
it.
yeah.
I understand, obviously they were
Well,
trying to get the
also,
girl
he's
in.
British, so I think
Yeah.
for that, and then also he's very imposing, whereas Vincent Price, he's got a different kind of spookiness to him.
He
So
does.
I think Christopher Lee would
You
have
know,
been
I
a better
think,
choice.
and this is not to say that Christopher Lee isn't this sort of like suave person, but that's what Vincent Price has. You think back to House on Haunted Hill when he's delivering that speech as the sort of floating head at the very beginning, and it's just like he's just like oozes class, doesn't he? And Christopher
Oh
Lee,
yeah, he's very upper crust and very classy guy. And Christopher Lee like was just this really imposing, like, 6'5" man,
yeah,
had that very deep, specific voice. And Vincent Price's voice is very iconic as well, but I
yeah.
just think I would prefer Christopher Lee in this. No shade on Vincent Price. I'm just saying specifically, I think that would have sold me on this a little bit more.
I can't believe we've actually.
I know.
I can't believe a conclusion we've taken out of this movie is that we would have preferred someone else than Vincent Price. Probably the
Bless
one.
his heart.
The thing is, you're saying that like it was one or the other. It wasn't even that
No,
part
no,
he
I
was going
know,
to be
but
playing.
just
It was
like,
someone else.
just
So
like
it would have been both.
No, I know.
It would have been both.
No, I know, and I would have absolutely probably. My score probably would have went like doubled if
Points,
they were both.
yeah, many points.
Like if they had both been
Yeah.
in this film. But I can't.
Oh,
But I was
yeah.
just thinking also, like, if Christopher Lee played the role that
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price played, I think it would have been better.
Uh,
Not
Yeah.
that, and not that Vincent Price. I mean, I fucking love him. I just, I don't know. I just think
No matter
it would
how
have been
good
better.
you are, no matter how good you are, you're not right for every role.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
uh,
But
and
good on them for getting Vincent Price, I guess.
Yeah. Right, guys, I have absolutely nothing else to say about this piling heap of shit that is this movie. So
I mean,
I'm
I'm
gonna
trying to think.
I'm gonna open the floor up for you two. If you guys have any other points that you want us to discuss before we move on, now is your time.
what did you think of the fake alien scene? The bit where it's coming out of his belly and everything. He's lying there with the pie.
Yeah.
And then it's just gas. That's the best bit.
I love how we've just had like half an hour of us saying, you know what, Nico, we appreciate that this is your comedy, it's not ours, and you've just re-explained one of the jokes to us and are now just laughing as we sit here in silence.
I mean, it made me laugh at like the thing that probably actually made me really laugh, like a real laugh, like not a snort or something.
I loved it.
It was when she takes the book off the shelf and it's called The Silent Fart, and then Kenny Everitt walks up and he's like, there's like smelling, and she shuts the book and puts it away, and then they go over and there's like another smell, and he's like, you need to stop farting. She's like, oh, excuse me, like I don't know, I kind of laughed at that because I am prey. I fall prey to fart jokes. I have a long history of just thinking that's hilarious. I never grew out of it, so I mean that got me, but like not too hard. It could have been funnier.
Did you not like the bit where Vincent Price gets set on fire or something?
I mean,
It's his face. He looks like he's gonna cry the whole time. He's like, "You set me on fire. Why am I on fire?" I just fucking love that bit.
I guess I was more upset that they're really gonna kill him off. I was like, we need more Vincent Price. This is the only reason I'm here, folks.
I've been a faithful servant for 700 years, and this is how I'm getting taken out.
Watching you piss yourself laughing at this is kind of funny, Nico. I'll give the movie that it's made you laugh, which has in turn made me laugh.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it.
Right. Have we got anything else to talk about then with this film? Are we good to move on? Oh, no.
So the ending is shit.
Yeah,
I'll uplift with that. The ending is like, I'm guessing they just didn't know how to end it, and that was it. They just went, fuck it, that'll do.
The end.
Or is it?
Or is it the beginning?
And I was like, please let it be the fucking end. Don't
I genuinely thought we were gonna get like another 20 minutes of film or something after.
I mean, was it just me, or did this film feel really long. Like, and it wasn't long.
It's
No,
90,
it passed way too quickly.
It's like a really tight 91 minutes. Like,
Yeah,
and
it's a standard length film, but it felt insanely long. And I don't know if
See,
it's just
not for
because
me.
of
It
I
passes
was
like a heartbeat.
suffering or
Nico,
I was waiting for something cool to happen, but I just felt like it was way too long.
Nico, I had to watch this twice because I fell asleep the first time.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I'm glad you watched it twice then.
Well, I kind of had to, didn't I? Otherwise, I'd be sitting here with no fucking clue what I'm talking about, which is most of our episodes, to be fair. But yeah,
But like, even the simplest like jokes, like the simplest one that made me laugh as well is when all the clone things or whatever they're meant to be, the doppelgangers are all coming out the hole, you know. And then you've got the gay couple face to face coming up nose to nose, like, ee! They're the only two that come up together just to emphasize the point of you don't like this shit, so fuck you. We're putting another extra scene in. I love
Yeah,
it.
I noticed that, and I was kind of like, all right, I mean, but it just didn't. I mean, I can appreciate that part. I just, it doesn't make the movie any better. It's felt when I complain about a movie being long, and I watch long movies on purpose. I'll watch like extended cuts. I have like the cut of Dawn of the Dead with all the extra footage, director's cut footage, and it makes it like 30 minutes longer. I do that on purpose. So like if
Yeah.
I'm watching a 90-minute film and I'm like, what the fuck? So I paused it because I was like, I'm going out to smoke. This shit is stressing me out because it's going on forever. I came back in and I looked to see how much was left of the movie. Half of it. I was like, no, I want to go to no. So that is always like a really bad omen if I'm complaining that it's too long.
you know what? I think Candy's favorite time of the show is when we've just finished a Nico episode because it's the furthest possible point from another Nico episode.
I mean, hey, at least last time you did let the right one in. I'm like, I fucking love that movie. All right. But, and I mean, I do think like the three of us bring like certain types of films and they're kind of almost predictable. Like, okay, of course Kenny picked that. Of course Ian picked that. Of course Nico picked that. So I think without even listeners knowing, they're gonna know Nico picked this.
Yeah.
Just like we did Full Truth, they're gonna go, Kenny fucking picked that. I know that, or whatever. So it's definitely a Nico film.
So yeah.
Right. With
I
that
just wish it sounded as funny as you did, because that would have been great.
Right. With that being said, shall we move on?
Yes.
Go on then.
Okay. Right. Let's go on to our next segment, and we're going to talk about some trivia. This is probably going to be quite a short segment because Nico, I think you did say you've ran through the majority of the trivia that you already had, and this is you're the one who knows about this film. So, according to IMDb, this film had a budget of $2 million. I don't know where they spent that.
Yeah.
Was that just Kenny
And
Everitt
80s money.
Kenny Everitt and Vincent
Yeah.
Price's fees? I don't know, maybe.
Probably.
It'll be hiring out the Mara and all that shit because that costs a fortune.
Yeah. During filming, Kenny Everitt would often forget that his character walked with a limp or limp with the wrong leg, so the director, Ray Cameron, eventually had to stick signs up on the set that said limp and had a clapper boy charged with reminding Kenny to limp before each scene. So, yeah. Why was the limp there? Why?
Why the fake leg? What was the point of it? I just didn't understand. Like, it wasn't funny, and they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
So okay.
So as I've already mentioned, Pamela Stephenson was married to Billy Connolly, who's potentially one of the most loved and greatest comedian in the world. Also happens to be Scottish, so
And she's a huge sex therapist now. She's like one of the go-tos for celebrities.
Yeah, she's also she went away and she got her PhD. She's a very, very intelligent woman. She has a PhD. She is very, very smart woman. So Michael McIntyre, who I mentioned, who is also a comedian here in the UK, is the son of the director of this film. Met Billy Connolly. Michael brought the movie up to him, and Billy Connolly responded just by saying, "Pamela's been in a lot of shit movies." And I think we could all sort of picture just how Billy Connolly would actually say that as well.
Was it not like he said it was the first time I saw a future wife's tits or something.
He probably said something like that, yeah.
Or someone else. He mentioned their tits in an interview as well. I can't remember what it was. That's why I never brought it up, but it's funny.
International star Vincent Price was visually emphasized on the American home video front cover sleeves in the USA, as we've already talked about, pretty much exclusively due to the fact that British comedian Kenny Everitt was very not well known in the United States, and Vincent Price was a
I had
huge
no
draw,
idea
so,
who he was.
yeah, so they obviously chose to capitalize on his appearance in the movie, and I think that probably would have soured, like you said, that would have soured a lot of people on this film who were going into it expecting to see.
It's sort of like what they did with the original what is his name? Oh my god, he just died. Wow, I'm bad with names. Roger Corman's first film was Little Shop of Horrors,
Yeah.
and which I prefer the musical remake in the 80s with the Frank Goslin, but Jack Nicholson does a small scene in it. But every time you go to look at a copy of the original Little Shop of Horrors, it's Jack Nicholson on the cover.
Yeah.
He's in there for like 2 minutes maybe.
And I think this is a tactic that's now sort of outdated, isn't it? Like, people tend to not do this anymore because I think they know that they're just going to piss their audience off. So you don't really see it that much anymore as well.
Saying that, it could work the other way as well, because it could work the other way with Scream. Like, everything to do with Scream was Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, no, that's...
she's in it.
But I think...
Yeah, they did push that pretty hard.
But I think the difference with that is as well, Vincent Price being in this movie, for example, for the 5 scenes that he's in, and he doesn't really do much in that scene. Whereas Drew Barrymore in Scream, that's such a shocking moment because no one expects it. Because no one is expecting it. Because we think she's our main character.
She was the biggest name on that film.
100%. We've also lost Nico again because he's frozen on my screen. So it looks like Nico will have to jump back out the call and jump back in. If he is listening. If you can still hear me, I don't know if you can. Anyways, I've still got a couple more pieces of trivia to get into. This is the last British horror movie that Vincent Price made. He didn't make another British horror movie after this. He's obviously someone who is very well associated with, like you say, Hammer horror and British horror movies, and this was his final one. So I think that's a little sad. Now that the defender of this movie is gone, I think that's a little sad that this is how he went out with British horror.
Yeah, because he did so many better films, but this was he was older, and like we talked about, and his career wasn't what it was. He was kind of as Bela Lugosi's character says in Tim Burton film Ed Wood, I'm just an ex-boogeyman, And it's weird because Vincent Price got to start on I love classic films in film noir, and it just seems so out of place when you see him in a non-horror film. And he kind of didn't like being typecast as a horror guy, but it happened and he got work because of it. But nobody remembers that he had a career before that in movies such as Laura. I'm probably referencing shit nobody knows about. But if you like horror, I mean classic films, it is a very famous one. So he did all this, and then once he did a horror film, bam, there's his career. And he didn't really love that, but he had to fall back on it.
Yeah. I think Nico is now ready to rejoin us. Apparently his cat killed his...
Oh no.
Sorry, I reached for Ari, and when I did, he hit the phone and it hit Sheila and switched it off. Sorry about
that. We're just going through a couple of pieces of trivia. So we just covered that this was Vincent Price's final British horror film. So that's all you've missed. The last piece of trivia I've got, and we've already talked about it, is one of the very few occasions that Vincent Price swears in a film. Okay. He was renowned for refusing to use coarse language, but relented on this occasion as it was used for comedic effect. I really do love as well that 60% I think of the trivia that I have for this film is about Vincent Price, who's in this movie for the grand total of about 2 minutes. So that I think says a lot.
Yeah, they kill him off pretty midway, and you're just like, oh shit, what?
Any trivia from you guys? I'm not expecting anything.
What little I knew, I shared.
Yeah. Nico, anything else that you think you thought of or knew about?
No, just I said most of mine.
Okay. Well, that being said, then we'll move on to our next segment, which is the ratings and the reviews. As always, we'll start off with the critics' scores. IMDb scored this movie a 5 out of 10, which is a lot higher than I thought it would get. I think when you consider, some of the other movies that we've reviewed, like, that's a high score for me. There is no Metacritic score for this. There's also no Rotten Tomatoes critics score for this.
Holy shit!
Is there not?
There is not. There is a Rotten Tomatoes audience score.
Because the critics fucking hated this, by the way.
Well, there's nothing on the website. I looked just before we came on air, and there's nothing there. But there is an audience score. So, Nico, your film, you go first. What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes audience scored this?
See, I genuinely don't know, because, like, everyone I know that is my age group from over here loved it. That's very similar to me, but everybody else fucking hates it. Like if you're 5 years younger than me, you hate this movie. It's weird. So I don't know. Probably about 45.
Okay, 45% from Nico. Candy, what would you think they scored this?
I'll go a little bit lower. I'll say 35.
35. Shockingly, and it's tight. It's tight, but Nico will take this one. It's 41%. So you're
close,
almost like slap bang in the middle of the two. So just ever so close. 41%. I mean, that's so much higher than I thought it was going to get as well.
I'm a little surprised.
I'm loving that.
Like I really.
That's what I'm saying. It's got like folk my age love this.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it has kind of got like a cult following, just like a small one.
It's a very niche one from folk in the 80s.
It is very niche.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember as well, the older ones in the 80s hated it because it had all the fucking stuff in it that would be equivalent of the word that you don't want me to use. Of the equivalent of that for the 80s, if you know what I mean.
Woke.
That's the one.
As always, we throw it out to our followers and listeners. Usually I just ask for people's scores in this. I was just asking if people had even fucking seen this film because I'd never heard of it. But we got a few responses. John Robinson on Twitter says he's seen it, owns the DVD and the novelization. I didn't know there was a novelization of it either. It's an odd...
I didn't even know that.
Fucking like batshit insane.
Yeah, that might be an interesting read, actually.
Right, I'm kind of curious.
It's an oddly bad film. I mean, Kenny is a funny guy. Vincent Price is good in this. His bits are really quite funny. The rest is oddly flat. The budget is a problem. The opening is really nudie and violent, and there is a mood whiplash. The bit that spoofs the entity, who remembers that film now, is kind of a bit non-consensual and again seems a bit off. The gay couple are represented okay, I suppose. I mean, with Kenny there, you'd at least expect that, but the jokes are really bad. I mean, the bat joke, ... So, not a fan.
Yeah, that
not
was
a fan.
groaner. That was a groaner. I was like, oh, really? Okay, cricket bat, sure.
NYC Cinema Confidential says, huge Kenny fan, but this is barely watchable. Sadly, tried on a few occasions, we pretty much gave up around the 30-minute mark each time. And Night of the Knicks Eclipse we actually spent an hour and a half talking about this on our shit show, and they all loved it. So yeah, there you go. There's a mix there. One of each. I don't know if anyone reached out to you, Candy. I know you did put it up. Did you get any responses for this one?
I did not actually.
I really didn't think you would.
I meant to try and push it more, but like, yeah, I was. My daughter was moving into her first apartment, so I was really, really busy with that for a bit. So I didn't push it hard. I really
expected us to get no one interacting with this, thinking because I just thought that no one knew what this was.
To be fair, like when we put out Tenebrae, I thought nobody would respond. Yeah. So I mean, I guess.
And I've only read.
There's always at least one.
Yeah, well, I've
put it this way. I thought your only responses would have come from Facebook.
I've only read out 3, but there was more as well. Like I know sometimes we read out quite a lot of reviews on movies. Sometimes we don't read out a lot. We don't always read out all the reviews we get. Sometimes I've simply not got, there's simply too many. Sometimes, some people just leave like little scores here and there. So we do get more responses, and we do thank everyone for giving the responses as well. So just to throw it out there, we did get more than 3 reviews of this, and those are just the 3 that I've picked out for this episode. Given that all of our audience scores combined, the audience on average gave this a 4.2 out of 10. So lower, actually lower, I think, than, well, matching kind of like the Rotten Tomatoes score, lower than the IMDb score as well. So that's interesting as well, because again, um, they tend to be the more generous sort of raters. I think they're a bit like you, Connie, and like they tend to be a bit more generous unless they really fucking hate it, and then it's just like no holds barred, everything's on nothing's
That's
off
exactly
limits.
me. Yes. I'm usually very generous, but if I hate it, I'm gonna fuck it up.
So that just leaves us, and given that there was no Metacritic score and no Rotten Tomato score, I think our scores will actually carry a little bit more weight in the average as well, because there's less to divide it by. So Nico, this is your film. You get to go first. What are you rating on a scale of 0 to 10? Bloodbath at the House of Death.
I'll give it a 6 because it's got a shit ending. It's not the best movie in the world. It is absolutely hysterical to me, though. But it's I could watch this over and over again.
I can't believe you've given this a 6. I can't believe it.
Fucking,
Okay.
it's my kind of comedy for fucking
Fine.
the stupidity of it sometimes.
Fine. We'll move on. Candy, what are you gonna rate this one?
I had it a little bit lower, but Nico I gave it like a half point more. And I also tried to err on the side of caution that I don't always understand British humor.
Okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't land with me. And plenty of Americans it does. It's just not my type of humor. But I erred on the side of caution, gave it a 3. I don't ever want to watch this again. I really don't. It didn't have any fun. I was dyeing my hair and enjoying that more. Um, yeah, and I kept taking if I'm taking smoke breaks during the movie and pausing it so I can go away and just like get my life together for a minute before I have to go back in and be like, oh, I gotta finish this fucker. Like it's not good. And I just think that like it being a spoof movie, it's just all the wrong things for me. It's not my kind of movie. So, but I did err on the side of caution and I did raise a little bit, so I gave it a 3.
Fair. Well, you aired
I'm
on
just not the audience.
You aired on the side of caution. I most certainly did fucking not. This movie gets a 2 from me. I appreciate.
Actually, more than I thought you'd give it.
I appreciate a couple of the jokes, and I appreciate the things you're saying, and I obviously appreciate the fact that this is maybe just not my sense of humor. However, I genuinely think that this is just a poorly put together film. The plot's not there. They underused and misused Vincent Price. That ending is fucking terrible. And yeah, there's like a couple of points in here where it's a bit like don't really want that in your films. So yeah, 2 out of 10 for me. And that is the last thing I will ever say about this movie, because I'm about to go and
I'm gonna scrub it from my memory.
I'm gonna delete it from my brain after this. So thanks for that, Nico.
Glad you enjoyed it.
So
Sean wouldn't even watch it with me. He started to, and he fucking went and started playing WoW. And I was like, motherfucker, you're leaving me by myself.
I fully understand why you would go and do that. All of our scores combined with the critics and the listener scores gives Bloodbath at the House of Death an average score of 4.1 out of 10, and it means it's in 98th place of the 104 movies we've now reviewed on the show. So it's just outside the bottom 5. It's saved itself from being in the bottom 5. It's one place above Long Time Dead and one place below Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead is better than this.
Okay, you know what? It's not worse than Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead was worse. Weird.
Yeah, I mean, you rated Army of the Dead a 1.5, Candy, and you've given this a 3, so...
That movie can suck my fucking dick. I hated it. Oh my God. Fuck that movie. So, justice was not served, but it's okay. They're both bad and they both suck. I don't want to ever watch either one of them again. That works.
Are you okay, Nico? that tickled you there, didn't it?
It did,
Okay.
That movie can suck a dick.
So, Candy...
I get very passionate when I hate some shit.
Do you have your leaderboard handy with your updated scores?
I do.
You do. Okay, so let's do a bit more of Candy's catch up and find out some scores for movies that we reviewed before you became a permanent member of the show. So the first movie that I want you to tell me about today, is currently ranked in 33rd place. Is the 2020 Zoom COVID movie Host.
I gave Host an 8. I think it was a pretty solid movie for as quickly as they put it together. Um, it was a really good quarantine watch, and for the low budget, and it being sort of a found footage film, which I don't always love those. It's really not my genre, like subgenre, I should say. I thought it was well done. It was short. It was to the point. It had some good scares in it, and like I said, for as quickly as they put it together, I really thought everybody was good in it, and it was an enjoyable watch.
Yeah.
So
You,
8.
you felt like slap banging between the two of us because Nico, you gave it a 7 and I gave it an 8.5. So I think we're all roughly in the same kind of boat with this one. And obviously,
Yeah.
You know, for the old show, we did a lot of work and did a lot of episodes with some of the people involved in this. You know, we had Emma Louise Webb on the show a couple of times. We had, Gemma Hurley on the show, who's one of the writers, and they're really fucking great. They were really really great to interview. So yeah, I really loved this film, and I think it's one of those ones because it's very it was very similar to Unfriended in that way, wasn't it? Because that was obviously all over Skype, and it was obviously a much bigger.
Yeah, I thought Host was better than
Yeah,
Unfriended.
because Unfriended
Yeah.
as well is like it feels like it's bigger budget, but I think this one is it's done way better as well.
Yeah,
And
on a low budget and quickly as it was shot, it was
yeah,
a really fucking good job.
and
I really enjoyed it.
I was really worried that it wasn't going to stand the test of time because of when it was released and obviously the
I just
circumstances.
rewatched it
So, yeah,
recently, and it's good.
yeah, and it wasn't a really long time ago. I think that we covered that. It was a while ago now, Nico, but it wasn't too long ago. And I think we both agreed
Yeah.
that it definitely, now that we were on the other side of COVID, that it definitely stood the test of time. So I'm pleased to say that, and it doesn't change anything for it on the leaderboard. It stays in 33rd place with an average of 7.8. So,
Awesome.
I think it's a good position for it. It's never going to be up there with like the best horror movies in the world, but it's going to be there, and it's going to be in good company.
But it's a good one.
Yeah, speaking of your disdain for found footage, up next it's 66th place. It's the Blair Witch Project.
Okay. This one was a hard one for me to rate because I saw it opening night in the theaters. It came out like right after I graduated from high school. I went and saw it in theater with my parents, which was weird because they were never married. They both went with me. And in the theater, it was fun. On a rewatch, it's not that great. Um, so I gave it a 6.5 just because it was innovative. I gave it some credit for how it handled the found footage and getting that kind of pulling from like the 70s type stuff and like these people are missing, blah blah blah. They had a great marketing strategy. The movie itself, like I said, great on the first watch, especially if you're in a theater. After that, I mean, it is not, and I don't mean super great, but it was fun. But at home, no, fuck it, don't watch it again. So 6.5.
This was one of the most polarizing movies that me and Nico had ever reviewed on the show. Nico, you hate this film, don't you?
No, I think it's a wonderful piece of art.
Yeah, Nico gave it. Put it this way, I love Blair Witch Project, right? And I love all the circumstances surrounding it and the marketing campaign and the things they did. I thought it was so well done for me. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Even though I gave it an 8 out of 10,
Oh wow.
we only combined gave this 10. Nico gave this a 2.
It's
Oh
fucking
shit.
awful.
I guess I'm just
Like,
somewhere in the middle. I mean, 6.5, I don't know. I mean, I think that it set the standard and brought found footage back. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it was creative and it was interestingly done. So
I tend
I
to,
don't mind
6.5.
found footage, but this one's shit.
I tend to not really fuck
It's
with.
better in theater.
I tend to not really fuck with found footage. There is only like 2 or 3 found footage
Okay.
films that I would like, and Blair Witch is one of them. I think for me,
You'd be shocked to find out what my favorite one is.
I think I'm interested now. I think for me, probably Host now would be probably one of the others. I think it would be them two and Rec, the Spanish one.
Yeah,
Like,
Rec for me,
I
like
really fuck with that film.
I'm gonna keep mine
V-
secret.
VHS was good
No.
as well.
Yeah. Oh, VHS.
Oh no, I'm saying
VHS.
I mean,
shit.
VHS
V-
is a piece of shit. Well, on the old show, on Ian's old show, Sean and I came
Yeah,
on
that's
as a
right.
duo, and we fuck that movie up. I mean, when Sean and I get going, like we will really massacre. And it was probably the funniest episode we ever did. We were laughing our asses off, and we had to pick our favorite like pieces from that. And I actually got Ian to change his mind on which was the best one. I was like, yes.
And I'm not someone whose mind gets changed particularly easily.
I can be very persuasive.
I'm generally
I
like,
can be very persuasive.
don't get me wrong, there's been a few times, Nico, where I've taught myself up and taught myself down, or you've managed to talk me up or down in a score.
What was it we both talked ourselves down and we loved it to start with?
I think there was a movie. I can't remember what it was either, but we both went into it thinking, you know what, this film is okay. And then by the end of the episode, we were just both tearing this thing apart. Really, I think because like
shitting on it from a great height.
I had like
I've done that to many movies.
I can't even remember what it was.
I can't remember because both of us were like, "This is actually decent. This is actually." By the end of it, we're like, "I fucking this is gosh."
Yeah, like full on like I had taught myself down from like a 6 to a 2 sort of levels. Like that's how much.
We were talking each other down. It was so fucking weird.
Yeah, on my old show, we would do that quite a bit. Like, and I was always like, I write op-eds as a journalist, although I'm a fiction writer, but I'm very, very persuasive. So on my old show, and I had like a huge panel on that show. I mean, people went into brain damage hating it, and I brought them way the fuck up. But I've also brought people way the fuck down, and people have brought me down. So, it happens when you're having these discussions. Shit comes out, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So I'll try and think for the next episode of what that was, because that's really going to bug me now. Although, Nico, you'll like this next one. So the final movie I want from you today is the 2019 remake of Child's Play, which is currently in 88th place.
Okay. I gave that a 3.5. I just think it could have been better. I'm a person, like, as far as Child's Play, I have very weird polarizing opinions. I like 1, 2, and 3, and the rest can fuck all the way off. And I think, I love Brad Dourif, and I love his voice, and I like that he's doing Chucky again, but like for this remake, you got Mark Hamill, who's a great voice actor, a great actor in general. And I just felt like without Brad Dourif, you don't have the essence of Chucky, and just I don't know. It didn't feel. It's not for me. I do have it in this awesome set, because I have all the Child's Play movies in this, like, it looks like a doll box with Chucky on it, and it has all of the movies in it. I watched it once. I'm not fucking with that thing again. So 3.5 I felt was generous. A lot of that was for Mark Hamill, but Brad Dourif is sorely missing here, and the story was lame, and like the redo of how Chucky looks, I didn't like either.
So Nico,
very, very. How about the possession?
Nico,
how about the possession thing, Candy? How did you feel on that?
I did not like it. It was really
flick a couple of buttons on a robot.
I just did not. It didn't have like that wonderful thing that makes Child's Play. You know what I mean? I guess it's maybe my age. I grew up with it. I grew up with Child's Play, and my mom worked at a video store. And when Child's Play 2 came out, she got their video store got all these dolls of Chucky, and I had a fucking Chucky doll, and it was really, really cool because they all shit for free. But like, like this trying to redo it obviously didn't do well. The show is doing well, and I'm pleased with that. But
I like the show.
Yeah, it's doing great, and we've got Brad Dourif, we've got Fiona Dourif in there, we've got
Jennifer
whatever.
Tilly's in there as well.
I love Jennifer Tilly, I love her, but when I saw Bride of Chucky, I really was like, okay, we've gone off the fucking deep end here.
They jumped the shark.
I really like the first 3, and I'm like considered kind of like a goblin because I love 3, Child's Play 3. So I don't know how valid people find my opinion, but that Child's Play 2019 is just not for me.
So when they jump the shark is the fucking his son. That's when they jumped the shark.
Oh yeah, that one was even worse than Bride.
So
that's awful.
So a couple of things. Number one, it's pretty rare as well, like to get like a horror icon out of a franchise that is deep into it as Child's Play was when Jennifer Tilly got on board, because she has become a horror icon because of her role.
Yeah, I fucking love her. Yeah. I just.
And number 2,
changed the whole entire series.
Number 2, Child's Play remake was one of the first episodes we did. I think it was like 4th or 5th episodes we did, and ever since then,
you just jumped right the fuck in.
Ever since then, Nico's lived a lie and has been portraying this as I fucking love this movie, and that's never been the case, Nico. That's never been the case.
I didn't say. I didn't
No,
say you
but
loved
that
the
no,
movie.
no, you have though. You've absolutely been leading people to believe that I fucking love this movie for the entirety, the entire lifespan of this podcast. I gave Child's Play remake a 5 because I think it's just a bang average film, right? I don't think it's particularly great. I don't think it's particularly terrible. I think there's some interesting stuff in there. I love Mark Hamill. Like I can at times have fun with this. Have I checked this movie? I think I've seen this movie once in the last 2 years, and I don't really fuck with it that much. But Nico, you act like I fucking love this film, and you.
Do you know why? Do you know why this
Because
happened?
you know why it
Somebody
happened.
brought up. Somebody brought
No,
up. No.
no. This
Somebody
happened.
brought up. This is what Ian. Somebody brought up this, right? Your exact words were this to everybody that came on. Exact words were, "What would you rather watch, Doctor Sleep or Child's Play?" And you made that a
And
thing,
you asked
but
me
it was
that, and I was
one or
like,
the other.
Doctor Sleep all the
That's
way.
fine. That's fine.
Exactly.
I would still, to this day, rather watch Child's Play remake than Doctor Sleep.
That's fine, but you were comparing it
No,
that way. That's why I did exact same.
No,
as what you were
but
doing
you didn't
about
do
the Doctor
you
Sleep
didn't
thing.
do the exact same because you made out then that I fucking love this film. It's not. I just fucking hate Doctor Sleep more.
And you make
How
out
could you
that I
hate that
love
movie? I
Doctor
don't
Sleep.
understand.
You make out that I think Doctor Sleep is the best movie ever made. I don't think it's the best movie ever
No,
made.
but the
I
difference
think
is
it is very well done for what they had to do.
the difference is I only scored Child's Play a 5 and you scored Doctor Sleep a 7.5. So there's the fucking difference, Nico. You do really like Doctor Sleep, and I don't really like Child's Play.
No.
I just like it more than I like Doctor Sleep. I knew this argument. I knew bringing this movie up would lead to this. This is an old wound being reopened, and poor
Just
Candy,
picking at it.
poor Candy,
But
who's had to listen.
You're the one that started that whole thing.
Poor Candy, who has only ever heard about this but has never experienced it in person, now gets to experience this argument in person.
And she's on my side with both.
Well,
Fuck
no,
you.
'cause,
Yeah, I'm sorry I had to do that. I love Doctor Sleep. I really did.
anyways,
And a Child's Play, I was very disappointed with it. But I don't know. I wonder if that's an age factor though, like because you're younger than us, and Nico and I are pretty close in age, and I think we grew up and have like that background love for
I don't.
the original,
I mean,
Child's
I
Play
remember
movies.
watching the
Yeah.
Child's Play movies growing up. I was only born 3 years after the first Child's Play was released, so it wasn't like there was a huge length. I mean, obviously, I didn't see it when I was fucking born, but I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it like when I was still in single figures in age. So like, I still grew up watching the Child's Play movies. I also grew up fucking loving Mark Hamill as well. So, there's.
Oh, same. I mean,
I
but I was really disappointed. He's not Brad Dourif, and I need Brad Dourif.
I think the thing about it is as well, I had so much expectations for it when I heard he was going to be Chucky. Because I'm like, he's one of the best voice actors you can get.
Yeah, he's
It's-
fantastic.
It's fucking Mark Hamill. He can do this well. And I was
Right.
like, I really can't wait for the scene where he's taking over the doll because he's going to go balls to the wall, fucking taking the piss out the voodoo. And they cut that whole thing out before they even fucking, So it's a conglomerate of heaps of stuff with the Mark Hamill stuff on top of it makes it even worse for me.
But Nico, you really loved the song though, didn't you?
What song's that?
You'll be my body until the end. No.
Oh, see, I forgot about it because it's that shit.
Right. Anyways, that's enough. That's enough Child's Play chat. Like that's it. We never have to mention it again. We never have to mention that or Doctor Sleep ever again. Those words are now.
And you guys don't have to suffer through when I did Terrifier 2 on my old show when it had first come out. I actually sang the Clown Cafe song. But I used to be a performing singer, so I thought it sounded pretty good. But everybody was like, "Shut the fuck up! I hate that song."
I can't wait for the Clown Cafe song.
You can do it again if you want. Here, I'm fine with you singing.
Also, can I just point out that's the first mention of Terrifier in this episode as well.
It lives on in our hearts and spirits.
I can't wait for them to just slip the Clown Cafe song into Terrifier 3 somewhere, so you get that opportunity.
Yeah, I know the Clown Cafe song and I did sing it and everybody was just like staring daggers at me. I'm like, so whatever.
Anyways, your score for Child's Play does drop it down the leaderboard a little bit. It's went from a 5.1 to a 4.9. and it's dropped down to 92nd place on the leaderboard. So you've dropped it right the way down there. About 4 places that's dropped on the leaderboard. So
It could have went more.
So there we go. That is it. That's going to do it for this week's show. Up next, it's back to me. It's my choice.
Hold on. No, it's not. You forgot.
It's not. I forgot the question that Nico asked that I had.
Oh, the question, yes,
that
yes.
I had not been thinking about for the entire length of this.
Well, you've been hosting. It's hard when you're hosting. I mean, I know about
That's
that.
fine. We should bring back our answers next time we do it.
Well,
that way it
I
gives
got
you
my
something.
answers ready.
I'll let you go for it. Let's go for it. So Nico,
Candy, you go first.
Nico asked if you could choose any 3 characters from a horror TV show to go and back you up against an unknown villain. Which 3 would you choose? That was right, yeah.
And it has to be 3 different shows, remember?
And it has to be from 3 different shows. Okay, so
yeah,
I'll try and quickly come up with my other 2 because I do have one. Whichever one of you wants to go first, fill your boots and on you go.
I've got mine ready if you want me to go first.
Ladies first.
Alrighty. Lady is a broad term for me. No, I'm kidding. I picked Ash from Ash versus Evil Dead. Obviously for many obvious reasons. My son's name is Ash. I love Bruce Campbell, but Ash is a himbo. I love himbos. Dumb guys, heart of gold, but gets the job done, but they're kind of entertaining and stupid and cute. So yeah, Ash. And then I picked Verna from the recent Mike Flanagan series, Follow the House of Usher. She's like this entity that can kind of manipulate and control things, and she's like she's not human. She's got other powers, and she's very freaky. She can shapeshift. I don't know. I just think that could be useful, and that would be like a subterfuge thing. And then to cover,
I thought of that as well. But the reason I didn't pick was because she's basically a crossroads demon. She's collecting on the souls, so that's the only way she's got power. That's the only reason I didn't pick that, because I thought the same.
I think I'm trying to think of strategically 3 different types of protection or fighters or whatever, and I think Verna's more of a stand back, can shapeshift, can manipulate, can create situations without fighting. Ash is a fighter and an idiot, and I love him, himbo.
I get that, but the only way her powers work is it's collecting the souls of the other one. So it should have to have beef with it previously. That's what I mean. And that's the only reason I didn't pick it.
In my mind, I think she would be a good asset. I mean, she's not an obvious fighter type, but I think depending on, we don't know what we're fighting and what we're doing. I just wanted to have her on reserve. And so my third pick will rounds it out. I picked Freddy. He had a show called Freddy's Nightmares.
There you go.
In this episode, but he did host them.
And Freddy's on my list, by the way.
Yeah, well, in the 80s, Freddy's Nightmares was like a fucking fever dream. They never released it. I mean, it was a weird fucking show, and I would stay up late and watch it as a kid. They also did a Jason show, which was just as terrible, but Freddy's Nightmares was really fucked. But I would want Freddy because he can go in people's dreams. You got to sleep at some point. He keeps me entertained with his quips. I must be entertained. So I try to cover all my bases. Ash is just your typical fighter. He can go right in. He's human, but he's a badass. And like I said, Verna's kind of my subterfuge. And then Freddy can just he's very supernatural and has different powers. And he does have the ability to come out of dreams at times if we need to do that. So I feel like I have my bases covered with those 3.
Nice picks. The only one I would say is a bit weird was the middle one, because I was thinking the same, and then I was like, but then they'd have to have beef with them. That's the only thing. So I went for somebody else very similar because of that.
She's more of my reserve, quiet character, because I wanted to cover all bases. I really think she could be useful in the right situation, but not knowing, I wanted to have that base covered. So that was my strategy. I play chess, so I always have strategies on everything. So
I'll have to give you a game then.
Oh yeah, I fucking love chess.
All right, go then, Nico.
Same. Do you want me to go next?
Yeah.
So on the whole shapeshifter can do all that stuff, I picked Crowley from Supernatural, because King of Hell, all those powers, brilliant. I picked Fate from Buffy and Angel and all that, because she's the Slayer with no filter and she's fucked up. I also picked the two of them, so if it was like a Saw situation and that's the thing that you've got, them two can take fucking each other out and I've got a chance. And the last one I picked was Freddy. Because, yeah, if I'm gonna get killed, I'd rather be killed by Freddy if it was a Saw thing. And pretty sure, fucking same thing. Everyone's got to sleep. He can always get to you.
Yep. He's a crafty motherfucker.
So
and he's funny. I like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Has a
And
lot
plus,
to offer.
the fucked up shit that he comes up with, I'm like, I like that.
He's like a
like-
cat. He likes to play with his food before he kills it.
Exactly. If someone's coming for you, you want that fucker to suffer so everybody else learns. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been a bit loose
Come on then, Ian.
with my definitions of horror TV shows here. I also have Ash from Ash vs. the Evil Dead because of
Perfect.
pretty much the exact same reason that Candy mentioned. Can I include like a mini series as a TV show?
Well, I did follow the House of Usher, which was a mini series.
Yeah.
But
So
it was on
I-
Netflix.
so-
So I think it counts.
Okay, so I have 4 because I wasn't sure if like we're gonna. I'm not sure my next one could be picked either. But so I have Pennywise from the It miniseries.
I suppose you could, I.
Yeah, see, put some thought in this.
So the Tim Curry one,
The Tim Curry one, yes, the Tim Curry one, not Bill Skarsgård's one.
the correct one.
The correct one, yes, because that's infinitely more terrifying than than the modern
It's so
ones.
scary.
My next one, I just don't know if there's some scary episodes in there, but it's not a horror TV show. So I've gone with The Doctor. From Doctor Who. There's some
Fuck off.
there's some scary
There's
scary
no
episodes in there.
No way is that horror.
I've never
That is-
actually seen Doctor
Fuck.
Who.
Right. Oh, watch Doctor Who. It's amazing.
I'm just aware of it. It just doesn't sound like my
Nico,
kind of
there's
show.
some
I don't watch
scary
a lot of
there's some scary episodes in there. There's some horror episodes in there. I don't care what you're
There's
saying.
fucking no.
Weren't those like weeping
The
angel
Weeping
statues
Angels.
and turn around
Yeah.
and like
They
Yeah,
they
but
were
these-
voted.
those are
They were
fucking
voted
scary.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who was your backup? Since I'm not giving you Doctor Who.
So I have Eugene Toombs from the X-Files.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Obviously, that's fine.
That's a good shout.
Okay, so we'll go Ash, Pennywise, and Eugene Toombs for me. Because Eugene Toombs can like.
But
he can-
Doctor Who, you should definitely try it.
You get what I mean, though. There are episodes that are very horror-ish.
The thing is, you wouldn't need anybody else if you just had a doctor because he solves everything.
Well, that's the point. That's why I had him. That's why I had him in my squad.
Shocking. No, it's not horror
It's
related.
not, no, I think
It'd be funny if the doctor was trying to get you because I noticed all of us picked villains.
yeah,
well,
I
Ash isn't a villain.
But it
He's kind of an anti-hero.
yeah, he's an anti-hero.
Himbo.
But yeah,
I love himbos. I'm like,
you know
I
what?
love himbos and bimbos.
I could I'll put this one out.
But yeah.
I'll put this one out to the listeners and see what they think.
if anybody else has questions like that for us, let us know. by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, these questions are fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Give
it.
us some questions.
Yeah, and if you would like to do that, here's how. You can send us a message on our Twitter at Damned Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram. It's Pod of the Damned. You can email us podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. That was a perfect segue into me doing the socials there, Nico. Oh, look at that. We're finally...
Yeah, and I can put them out on my socials as well. And I also jump on our X account for Pod of the Damned. So I'll be fielding if anybody has any. Like, please send them. They're fun. I like them.
Yeah, please, honestly, like it doesn't have to always be related to the episodes that we're doing at the time. We love answering these sorts of questions. We love hearing your stories. I know we've asked for it a few times, but please do send us in these things. We'll keep posting stuff and questions and all that up in our social medias to try and tease some stories out of people because we love to hear it, and we love to hear these sorts of trivia questions as well. So please go ahead and do that. Anyways, up next on the show, like I said, back to my choice, and we're bringing back, Candy, we're talking about British humour and what translates and what doesn't translate well. This one I think certainly did translate, because next week on the show, we're talking all about Shaun of the Dead. Yay!
Yes,
Yarp.
and that was the first episode I ever recorded with Ian years ago.
Yes, it was.
So
on
he already knows my feelings on the film.
I think we're talking almost 4 or 5 years ago now as well. That was way
It was,
back.
yeah, it was probably, I think, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
It was a while ago.
It was right. It was pretty early days in the old show as well. So yeah, going back to our
Yeah,
roots.
because it was just you doing the show.
Yeah, it was.
Yarp.
Yeah,
Yarp.
that's the wrong movie, Nico. I think there's still a big.
I know it's the wrong movie.
I think
it's part of the Cornetto trilogy, you tit.
I know. I think there's still a bit of a delay going on with Nico as well. Anyways.
I can hear you fine.
Oh, so you're just purposefully leaving huge bits of dead air. Is that what it is?
No, I'm listening to you.
You don't realize, Nico, that there's clearly like a 3-second delay on what I'm saying and when you hear it, so it's fine. Anyways, so
is there a delay?
There. You so much.
I'm guessing there's a delay because yeah, it's coming through now. So there's a delay. Shit, never mind.
Anyways,
it's like that. It's like that when we were saying about playing it straight. You know, it's the one where he's like, "Yeah, so what you doing since you're the president?" Yada yada, and like he starts saying everything, and it's the wrong answer straight after.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyways, that's it. I'm done with this. I'm done with this fucking episode. I'm done with this fucking movie. We're getting the fuck out of here. Candy and Nico, thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Thanks for being on.
Oh, there you go. Listeners, thank you very much to everyone who's downloaded and listened to this episode. Like I say, please do all of those things that we've asked you. It would be very, very much appreciated. And until next week on the Pod of the Damned, just remember, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.